the Change Labs co-working community manager. The co-working space is located in Tuba City. And what we do is we provide workspace for entrepreneurs. We provide internet, a desk space, and a physical space for a cool physical space, let me put it this way, in Tuba City. So if you want to do some work in our studio, you're more than welcome to drop by between 10 and 4 p.m. Monday through Thursday. Some of the questions that we get asked a lot is, how do I start a business? We have people that walk in through the doors or call us on Mondays during our coaching appointments to ask some of these questions. We have business coaching hours from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Mondays. And you can visit thenativestartup.org/events to book an appointment with our featured coach for that Monday. So we alternate. We also have a business incubator where we select 10 small businesses and entrepreneurs. And what we do is we help them from startup or to grow their business idea. And they go through a course that's one year long, sorry. Another question we get asked a lot is, how do I create a web space? We have a resident designer, and you can get one-on-one help in developing a web space. And this is more of a consulting to see what website or web page would work best for you. And you can always book an appointment at nativestartup.org/events. We also have a YouTube channel where we have more than 30 videos currently, and we upload most of our webinars, our workshops onto the site. Please follow us. You can just find us by typing in Change Labs, and a majority of our videos are on there. How do I get help running my business is another question that we get a lot of. We do have, as I mentioned before, a co-working space where we have a desk space, Wi-Fi, or if you have any questions, we have people, or I'm on site to answer some of those questions. And we also offer a monthly training, also workshops, bi-weekly workshops to the entrepreneur community. We also have a Rising app where we have more than 630 native businesses that registered. It's like a yellow page where you could find, let's say that you were looking for a certain business, maybe catering in Tuba City. You would type in catering Tuba City and it should bring up those businesses that are registered, that have registered through on Rising, that have catering businesses. So, and if you have any more questions, you can email me at marsha@nativestartup.org. And I would ask you to stay on mute until Q&A. Type your questions in the chat box, and this session is being recorded for YouTube. And we are currently also hiring community advocate, communications, and brand manager. So you can go to nativestartup.org/jobs to apply for any of these two positions. And now for the basics of building a personal budget. Our presenter is Kristine Laughter. She has many years of experience on the Navajo Nation as a banker, and she has been part of the opening team for the Navajo Tech Innovation or Navajo Technical University's Business Incubator in 2016. Kristine, I'm gonna have her introduce herself, but she's from Keyente, Arizona. Without further ado, Kristine, give it to you.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today on developing a spending plan. Yate, my name is Kristine Laughter. I am the director of the Kinship Lending Program at Change Labs. She'e nake de ne nishle, the touching ni bushes chin, kia ani deshate she do islana deshanelle. I am originally from the community of Kent, Arizona, where I currently reside, and I have been with Change Labs for a little over a year now, and I currently run the Kinship lending program, which is a micro lending program at Change Labs. And I'm so glad to be part of this great organization and doing the work that we are doing to help bring services such as lending to our communities where I feel like our Navajo people and Native people are underserved in this area. So one of the things I want to do is I want to start to do more financial education courses just to help people to get a little bit more understanding around financial education. I feel that the more financial education you have, the more power you have as a consumer. So I have been, like I said, with Change Labs for just about a year. Before that, I worked with the Navajo Nation, and then also did some work with Navajo Technical's business incubator at in Church Rock, New Mexico. I also have gone through the OWISTA financial education training program. So I'm a certified financial education trainer with that program, and it's through Building Native Communities. And it's a really great program. And I really like it because it really talks about how we can incorporate our indigenous cultures into budgeting, into financial education. And so I really think that it really lines up with what we're doing here at Change Labs. When I was working with the bank, I worked with Wells Fargo. I was a bank manager. I was also a banker. And then I also worked with our business banking group. So I was able to do business loans as well as consumer loans and manage branches on the Navajo Nation and around the Navajo Nation. And when I was working in banking, one of the problems that I experienced almost all the time was having business owners come into the bank. Well, not business owners, but entrepreneurs coming into the bank, and they had ideas about setting up a business account because they wanted to set things up so that they could grow their business or grow their idea. What happened is they would come into the bank and they didn't have the right documentation to start out a bank account. So at the time, what people needed to start a bank account was they needed to get, of course, ID, then they needed a tax ID number, which you get through the irs.gov, and they didn't have access to get to that. So it's just kind of like you apply for a social security number for yourself, you apply for a tax ID number for your business. And so those are a couple of things they needed. Then they also needed to get a business license or something to show that they were, in fact, a legitimate business. And so when we were operating on the Navajo Nation, where they would go was they would go to economic development to get that. And they didn't know that. So I would usually direct them over there so that they could get set up with the Navajo Nation Economic Development Office. And then I was also in the city of Winslow, and with the city of Winslow, they would just go down to the city, apply for their business license, and usually get the business license on the same day and come back and see me. So things are a little bit more difficult on the Navajo Nation. The process is a little bit longer for them to get that. And so I saw that, they had a harder time getting set up and established on the Navajo Nation. So that just happened throughout my time with Wells Fargo. I was also able to teach financial literacy to the communities where I was living. So I would teach financial literacy classes to young students, to high school students, and then also to communities, to young adults, and then also small business owners. So we were able to offer those services At the time, I didn't realize how complex things would be to get a business started on the Navajo Nation. Because for me, I was, in the bank and able to just say, go do this, and you can get this taken care of. It wasn't until I left the bank and I got into some economic development work. I was working with Navajo Technical University's business incubator, and then I got to really experience the work that it took to start up a business, which was good. It was good to learn that. And so I was able to go through the process. I was able to help other people go through the process of getting their business registered with the Navajo Nation. So that's one part. And then actually getting certified as a Navajo owned business was another step. So there are a couple of different steps to go through. And in time, I did start to figure all of that out. So fast forward to where I'm at now. I'm with Change Labs. I've been here for a little over a year, and I really am happy to be part of this program where I can work with entrepreneurs and continue to help them to figure out some of the solutions to starting a business on the Navajo Nation. And now I'm in a position where we can actually help entrepreneurs to gain access to capital, to money, so that they can grow their businesses. So some of the solutions that I want to be able to help small businesses with is to understand money culture in Native culture. So understanding what that looks like, what we deal with all the time on Navajo. I want to help people to create a spending plan and develop a savings plan, because I believe that if you can get a hold of your finances, and if you can understand or clearly see all the money that's coming in to your household and see what's leaving and where all your money is going, you can really track things, and it can help you to just become a better consumer, a better I guess, person of budgeting your own money. Because it's your money, you make it and then you spend it. But we can help you with coming up with some solutions on how you can better manage that. So we hope to have, we will have some series of financial education workshops for entrepreneurs, and then also people in our programs here at Kinship Lending, because I do see that need. I do see that there is a need for financial education, and we want to be able to help people with that. So this is a program that I went through. I went through this course. It's a Train the Trainer course with Building Native Communities at Awista Corporation. And I was able to go through this program and basically learn how to deliver this information to people in our community so that they can start to get a grasp of what they need to do to get their budgets in order, and to help think about savings accounts for them, their families, and then just really help them to get on track so that they can look at building wealth in their communities. So this is a link here to the workbook that we're going to be going through. So I'm going to just leave this up here for a little bit so you can type in this link. If you type this in, you'll be able to get access to the workbook that we're going to be using in this session. And then you can also go back here and get this for future sessions that we're going to be having here at Kinship Lending. So it's Financial Skills for Families Workbook 5th edition. And if for any reason you have trouble getting access to this, you can email me as well. My email is Kristine@nativestartup.org. So it's Kristine with a K. You can email me and then I can shoot this link to you so that you can have access to this. Okay, so part one of the program is titled The Circle of Life. So our Native communities have traditionally demonstrated tremendous skill in managing resources to support our needs on an ongoing basis. I want to share a story about my time as a kid growing up on the reservation. My grandmother Elizabeth is originally from Lakutagay Mountain, and so we grew up in Canada, but in the summertime we would head up to the base of Lakutagay Mountain, where my family had a farm. And it wasn't just my family, it was my mom's sisters and brothers and all of my cousins. We would all come to Lakutagay and we would work on this farm. And I remember the first year that we went up there, there was nothing. There was not a farm, but there was an idea to farm that land because there was a stream that came off of the mountain and went right by where my grandmother's homestead was. And so I remember my dad and my uncles planning the irrigation system for that. So it took time for them to plan that. And then I remember an uncle bringing in a tractor and working that field so we could level out. I think we had like maybe 2 or 3 different fields because it was kind of on a hillside. So they leveled at like 3 different levels so we could plant. And we ended up planting corn, squash, melons. Gosh, I don't remember what else, but we had a lot of fields. And I remember all the fields because we had to pull weeds in the summertime. And we had to make sure that that stayed a healthy field. If there was anything that got into the fields, boy, we had to take care of that. There was times even that we would stay up there for a few days. I think everyone kind of took turns spending time up there that summer. And so that is just kind of the process that my family took to have this farm. And at the end of the summer, so we worked all summer, and then we harvested all the corn, the squash, the melons, everything there, and we were able to share that with our family and then other extended family members. And gosh, I just remember all of the work that we did, and it was just so nice to get that harvest, to be able to have a watermelon and enjoy that watermelon sitting by that creek side, just because it was so nice. And then another thing I do have to add was when we were working all day in the sun, the one reward that we had was, I remember our moms or our aunties would tell us, if you finish pulling all the weeds, if you pull all the weeds and you take care of the field, then you can go to the waterfall. So boy, all of us kids, we worked really hard, and our reward was to go up to the waterfall and cool down up there. But I just kind of think about times like this because our family was resourceful. Our family used the resources that we had and, just did that so that we could have something to share with other people, to share with our future generations. I mean, I think about even now, because of my knowledge of having that time on the farm. I mean, I enjoy having a garden. I enjoy growing zucchini and squash and melons in my garden. And so it's really important, and it continues to help us as we teach our children those things, right? So it's just that cycle of life, or that circle of life, that we have. So when we think about what our parents did, what our grandparents did, what our ancestors did, they did this so that they could take care of each other, so they could take care of their families as well. And so think about what they did to prepare for these things. Sometimes I remember my grandmother talking about how they would prepare for the winter times. They knew if it was going to be a really bad winter, so they knew that they had to have extra things stored up and saved up to get through these winters. So they did save, they did put things aside for those rough times. And, I remember even talking to families recently, like in the last 5-10 years, where people would say, gosh, my mom had these seeds in a glass jar and she had them up here. And I was just wondering if they were still good. And I took them down and I planted them. And I just think, wow, somebody whose mom is no longer around, but she was able to keep these seeds for her family. She knew the importance of this. And, all this time has gone by and they were able to plant and harvest some new vegetables out of that. So I just kind of think about how our circle of life just continues as Native people and how we use these resources to help us. So some of the things that we think about when we think about the circle of life is, why did they do things the way that they did? Is this something that was passed down from generation to generation? Is this something that they just said, well, this is the way we're going to do it? Well, I think it's something that's passed down from generation to generation. We think about taking some of those goods and trading those with other family members. Maybe you have a family member who has something of value, or maybe there's a family that has sheep and you want to trade for some of those harvested good for sheep so you can have some mutton. That's something that could be also happening with this whole process. So having a farm, having the resources definitely is something that we know that our ancestors have used. So this is an activity that is in the workbook. So if you would like to take a look at this, or you can draw this on a piece of paper, complete this exercise based on your traditional community. So if you're not Navajo, if you're, Hopi or another tribe, think about the circle of life in your community, in your indigenous communities, and think about what that looks like. What does it look like in the spring, to the summertime, to the fall, to the winter? And what is it that people did in each of these four areas of life, and how did that help the communities? How did it help your family? And so write that down. Just take some time to write that down. If you want to pause the video while you do that, go ahead and do that activity. This is also an activity that, if you're teaching financial education to your young children or your grandkids, you can actually take this activity with them, share your stories about how your families planned for the year, planned for the winters, and what they did to do that. So do this activity with others. I think it's a great activity because it really gets you to start thinking about things, and also getting, the young kids and grandkids involved in this process. So right here, we're going to share the different ways that your families preserved and saved your resources. So I have the corn here, the dried steamed corn here. I honestly didn't remember what this process was like and how this was done until, gosh, it seems like maybe 10, 15 years ago. I was with a family and they went through this process to steam the corn and then dry it. And then, they saved all of this corn for later on in the year, or they used this corn and they sold it. It's a way also for families to make some money from their cornfields. And if you have not had steamed corn stew, you have to try it. It's the best thing out there. People sell this steamed corn, the dried steamed corn, at flea markets. I see this corn now being sold like on Facebook yard sale pages, and it's just very popular. I'm surprised that people don't charge more for it than they do. Maybe I shouldn't say anything because it's actually a pretty good price right now, but definitely something that people use in the economy. Another resource is the piñon nuts. So each year we have, well, not each year, but most years, there is usually a pretty good piñon harvest. I wonder what the piñon harvest is going to be this year because we've had so much rain. So this year could be a good harvest, or maybe it'll happen next year. But families will go out and pick piñons. I remember going out and picking piñons as a kid, spending the whole day out there picking piñons. And then our moms and our aunties would get together and go through and make sure we had good piñons in the pick. And then they would either save that or they would sell it. Some families actually go out specifically piñon picking so that they could sell it. I know that there's some traders out there that take this and buy this. And boy, who knew that piñons were so popular? Now you can go to your favorite restaurant and get a salad with piñon nuts, or pine nuts as they call it. And they're there. And I realize they are very, very expensive. So those are some of the resources that we have access to as Native people. And it's like I said, people are very resourceful in making money for their families. So with something, I'm sharing this because it's just something that we have always been able to do. I have friends who are business owners who watched their parents do things so that they could make money for their families. I don't think there's anybody that just sat back and said, gosh, I'm not going to be able to buy this or buy that because I don't have the money. People are resourceful. People have found ways to make money. I think Native people are just entrepreneurs all around. So the next thing we're going to talk about is strengthening the local economy. I talked about the piñon sales and how people will sell piñons to make money. So an economy is a system that helps people exchange items of value, just like I talked about the piñons and also the steamed corn. The economies can be local, tribal, regional, national, or international. So our economy is made up of businesses that provide goods and services, and consumers who spend money on these goods and services. So this whole economy takes all of us to work, right? So we have business owners and we have consumers. Think about who owns the businesses where you buy things from. Where do they get their goods from? Do they buy them from other businesses? Are they buying them from local entrepreneurs, or are they going and buying them from somewhere far and then having them shipped in? Are they buying them from tribal members to support the tribal economy, or are they buying from non-tribal members? And so think about that when it comes to the economy. And I'm just going to give a little plug for those farmers out there that have farms on the Navajo Nation, where they spend all summer farming, just like I talked about in my story. And if you're driving from Kayenta to Farmington, you go through Shiprock and you have farmers who are selling by the roadside, and they have their squash, they have their melons, they have their corn. And when you stop by there, they think about the work that they put into taking care of the corn, the melons, the squash. And if they have a price that they're offering you, know that that is raised by that one family, and pay them the value that corn has. Because if you go into a store in Farmington, you don't know where that corn's coming from. It's probably coming from the Midwest. It's probably coming from out of state, and it's probably had a long journey to get to that shelf. So when you think about the business owners in your communities, or the entrepreneurs, the farmers in your communities, support them. Keep the dollars on the nation, keep them in your tribal communities, because that's really what we want. So that's my thing on supporting our community's financial independence. It starts with you. So one of the things we will be covering, this next step of this is discovering your values. Our values are a set of beliefs that make up who we are. It's difficult to manage money well unless you know your values surrounding money. I have a little tool here that I just discovered recently. So this is, we're gonna do a little, not so much a game, but we're gonna do an activity now. So you can go to menti.com and use this code, or you can use your phone, use your camera on your phone and scan this QR code right here. Is everyone able to use the QR code to get to this question? Because what I'm going to do is we're going to answer this question. You can enter your top 3 values, the top 3 things that you value the most, and then I'm going to share the results with you. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to get in there. Is anyone having any issues getting into the Menti box? All right, so I want to share this screen. Does everyone see this screen? This is the screen that has what you have all entered. So the way that the this word cloud works is the largest word is the word that has like the most responses. So family is big, financial security, health, housing, food, community, wellness. So these are some of the things that you value. Family, of course, being right there in the middle, and then financial security. You know, we all want to make sure that we take care of our families, and we want to make sure that they are financially secure. So like I said, the top 3 seem to be family, health, and security. And that could be security, could be physical security, it could be financial security, because I think some people also look at that as something that they value. So we're going to talk next about money and Native culture. So we're going to talk about this because when it comes to dealing with money and Native culture, I think about some of the entrepreneurs that we deal with. Entrepreneurs will say, well, it's not all about making money. It's more about what I can do for the community that I'm in. It's more about helping the people in my community. And that is just always something that it comes back to, is we want to make sure that we have a community that is financially stable. We want to make sure that we have people in our communities are taken care of. So this is where we're going to talk about that. So culture is a set of shared attitudes, values, goals, and practices that categorize an institution, organization, or group. So money culture is related to the values, emotion, and feelings we have about things. So some of the things that participants in past classes have shared regarding money are these. These are quotes from them. So I'm just going to read through them. And these are coming from Native people from different backgrounds. And the first one is from Ben. And he says, my parents never talked about money, but my dad carried money with him all the time. I didn't know where he got the money. My dad, he just had it. I like to have cash on me at all times. I'm constantly overdrawn, or our accounts are on our accounts, or we have high credit debt. So, you know, that's usually what I would see also working in the bank, is that we had people who just carried cash with them, and that's how they took care of things. You know, I've heard that on the Navajo Nation, we're a cash-based society, and I didn't really understand that until I was actually working with the bank. What I witnessed was, The first of the month, when people would get their like their retirement checks or their social security checks, people would come in and cash all of their money out, and they would leave the bank with, with cash, because this is how they've done things all of these years, all of these decades. They would go take the cash to go make their car payment. I remember a grandma that I knew, she would go down from Chinley down to Holbrook, because that's where she bought her truck. And even though her finance company may not have been in Holbrook, but for her, that's where she bought the truck. So she would always go down there to make the payments. So I always thought that was really interesting. So, people carry cash, and that's something that I saw also when I worked in banking. Another one is this one where Bessie says, my grandpa didn't use a bank, but I always remember watching him put a certain amount aside for future use. And that's the other thing, is even though people did not use a bank, they, still had a sense to save money. They knew that they had to save for emergencies or the unexpected, or maybe they knew that they had something coming up within the family and they wanted to put money aside for it. So that's definitely something that we see. Another one is Sherry. She says, I grew up not having a lot of money, but I want my children to have what I didn't. Unfortunately, we're spending money today that we don't have, and collectors are calling nonstop. So that's one thing that people do. I mean, people want to make sure that their kids are taken care of, that their kids don't have the same hardships that they had growing up. But in this case with Sherry, now she's spending money that she doesn't have, and she has collectors calling. So, that's one thing that is also happening, is people have access to credit. They have access to applying for, either store credit cards or credit cards, whatever it is. And sometimes we end up spending more money than we have. I remember a friend of mine saying, gosh, so-and-so is living beyond their means. And I always wondered, what does that mean? And boy, that just means that you're spending money that you don't have. And I don't want to say mismanaging your finances, but it just kind of gets tough sometimes. But that's what people from different backgrounds, Native people with different backgrounds, have said about money and how we look at money. Some of the other comments I've heard around banking is that some people, with money, some people maybe choose not to have money in a bank because they don't trust banks. Maybe there are fees that hit their account and they don't know why. So it's just really important to really understand what's happening with your money, whether it's in a bank or it's in a credit union, or even if it's just money that you keep on you. I think about friends who use an envelope system to save their money and manage their money. They use envelopes to put money aside for savings. I think some people put money in savings first before they put money into other types of savings or other types of bills. And so there are just so many different ways that you can manage your money. So it's just all dependent on what you feel is important to you. So what is your money culture? Think about money culture in your family. Think about when you were growing up, or maybe think about your grandparents and the way that your grandparents handled money. So does your family discuss money? If you have parents living with you, do they discuss money? If you are the head of your household, do you discuss money with your family? How do your parents or grandparents handle money? Do you have a financial role model? Or are you that financial role model for your children and your grandchildren? What money habits do you have now that you can trace me read that again. What money habits do you have now that you can trace back to your childhood? And how do your friends view money? How do you think this may influence you? So I wanted to share a story about me being a single mom to my daughters who were at that time teenagers. And I worked at the bank, and I knew what, services or products were available for teenagers, but I just thought, oh, my girls don't need a checking account. They don't need that. And I just kind of put it off for a while. And then we would go shopping. We would go down to the grocery store, and we were down at the grocery store, and it was really interesting. They would, one would want makeup, or one would want a magazine. And magazines, I mean, even back then they were like $6-7 a magazine. And I just remember thinking, boy, that's sure adding up. So our grocery bill, along with these other things, sure added up fast. So I thought to myself, I'm going to set up an account, a teen checking account for these girls. So that way I can put, their allowance into the account, and then they can manage their money. And so that's what I did. I set up a checking account for both of them. They both got debit cards, and then I would set up an automatic transfer into their bank account for them so that they would have their allowance go right into the bank account. And that's how they would get the money. And it was up to them to decide, what they were going to spend their money on. One, when she was in high school, she liked to go out in the evening and go over to Denny's and hang out with her friends and go and get lemonade and appetizers. And so that was important to her, was hanging out with her friends. And it was really interesting when we went to the grocery store, and when she wanted to get that magazine, she put it in the cart, and I said, oh, so you're going to pay for that. I said, now that you have your own card, you're going to pay for that. And she looked at me, and she was like surprised that I told her she would have to pay for her own magazine. And she looked at me, and she looked at the magazine, and she thought twice about it. She put that magazine back, and I thought, wow, now that it's her own money, she's really thinking about what she wants to spend this money on. So I thought that was really interesting, because it really taught her, what I saw was it taught her that she needed to be very careful how she spent her money, and where that money was going to go. Was it going to go to her spending time at Denny's with her friends, or was it going to go to spending money on a magazine? So it's really interesting how that happened. I always think about that when I tell these stories about money and children. So think about how your family handles money. Think about who was your role model? Who did you watch take care of money in your family? I know when I was growing up, it was my mother. My father worked, and my mother took care of the bills. And I remember when it was payday or getting close to payday, she would sit down and take all of her bills out and set them on the table, and she'd have her checkbook, and she would write all of her checks out for her bills, and then she would have her check register, which was a really good thing. I saw my mom, she would balance her checkbook to the penny. She knew exactly how much money she had in her bank account, and she took care of things, and she was very good about it, and taking care of bills, taking care of her bank account or their bank account. So that's what I remember. What do you remember from growing up? Who was your financial role model? And again, what money habits can you trace back to your childhood? Think about what it is that you have done. There's so many different stories I think about. Friends who talk about having something like a home, a mobile home, for example, that they were making payments on, like making the very minimum payment on this mobile home, which was just a tiny amount because it was financed probably for 30 years. And a friend came and said, if you make like double the payment, or if you could make a little bit more than what you're currently making, you could pay this off a lot sooner than 30 years. And so one friend's advice helped the other friend, who said, oh, okay, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. And that trailer got paid off in a quicker amount of time. And I just kind of think now to where these two are, they sold the trailer, and they were able to buy a home. They were able to put a down payment on a home and buy a house, or have a house built on the nation. So I just think about little things like that, and the different things that people have done to have a positive impact on the way that I think about money. So think about your experiences. So the next thing we're going to cover is wants versus needs. So what are some of the wants that you have in life? So some of the things are like having prepared foods, or eating out, new home furnishings, brand name clothing, a new or late model car. And then we're going to talk about, and now also a vacation is a want. And then these are some of the needs out there. So having food is a need, shelter, clothing, transportation, medication, good health care. So think about, the difference between wants and needs. A need, definitely having grocery, having, your cupboards with food that you can prepare and you can cook at home, versus having wants where you just go out to buy dinner. So I think about what that savings would look like for you. Having a place to live, having clothing is a need, having transportation. So sometimes, we may not have to have the newest car or the latest model car, but if we have good transportation where you take care of the car, you get it serviced, you take it in for, an oil change every 3,000 miles, and they get the tires changed when they need to be changed, that'll help. That's a good way to have a car that's going to last a long time. And so that way you don't have to buy a new car every few years, so just things just need maintenance so that, they can last longer. Another thing around a need is these are things that you need to survive, really. I mean, to survive, you need these things. I'm just reading through some of my notes here. So thinking about shoes, having name brand clothes, maybe something that is nice to have. It's nice to have name brand clothes, name brand purses, but if you can go without those, or if you can go with something that isn't as expensive, it can help you. It can be the difference between spending like $100 on an outfit versus going into your closet to find if there was something you could put together for an event or for a work. So think about that. Think about how some people will save money on their wants so that they can continue to grow a savings account. And that's something that also you want to think about. All right, so the next part that we're going to talk about is creating a savings plan. So develop your roadmap to financial freedom. And we're kind of getting down to, the reason for having this webinar is, developing a spending plan. So first we're going to talk about creating a savings. So that you can start to on your road to financial freedom. So if you see the picture, it's like cutting expenses. If you cut expenses, you take away some of those expenses, let's say eating out one week, you can save $50 and put that toward, savings account versus, eating out, maybe it's only eat out once a week. And so another thing you can look at is increasing your income. Think, okay, gosh, how can you increase your income? Well, there's different ways. When I was a young mom, and I needed to make extra money, I had a full-time job, but I wanted to make extra money. I think one of the things I wanted to buy was a new dining room set. And so what I did was I started to sell this product called Pampered Chef, and it was cooking utensils, cookware, cooking gadgets, really. And I, started. I think I spent like $100 on the package to start this little self-employment deal. And I got a couple of friends to book the first shows with me. And then I went to their homes, and I basically, I would cook pizza. And to make this pizza, we used all the gadgets to share how to make this pizza, but being creative with all of these different tools, using the knife, using a rolling pin to roll out the pizza dough, using a garlic press to do the garlic. And so it was fun. And I was able to spend like maybe 2 to 3 hours, maybe once or twice a week on selling my products, and I would make commission from my sales, and that money I would put into a separate bank account so that I could save for my dining room set. And and that was something I did. It was something I wanted to do because my regular job, I had bills I was paying for and taking care of my family. So that was something that I did. So there's just different things you can do out there. You can be again, be the entrepreneur, get the entrepreneur in you to go come up with an idea around how you could make extra money. If that's doing, like a sister of mine, she sells snow cones and Piccadillys and other things from her house. And that's what she does. She does it to keep herself busy, and she makes some money from that. So think about how you can increase your income so that you can get on that road to financial freedom. So think about some of the things that you want to save money for. Some of the things that you want might be a house. Maybe you want to save for a down payment on a house. Maybe you want to put money aside, a college savings fund for your kids or your grandkids. Or maybe you want to buy that new car, or maybe there's a car that you see for sale and you want to be able to buy that. So, paying cash, even if for a used car, can be a better deal. So, think about what your savings goals are. So you'll want to write down what your savings goals are so that you can have a goal to meet and think about how much it will take you to reach your goal. So let's say, and we'll go over this in the next slide. So what are some of the things that you would like to be able to afford? So if you have short-term goals, and short-term goals are goals that you want to be able to reach within 12 months. So let's say you want to buy some bicycles for the kids. So you'll want to save up $500 in 6 months to do that. Or maybe you want to buy an iPad. You want to save up $500 in 6 months for that. Or you want to buy a guitar and you saw a guitar and it's going to cost $200. So you may want to save up for 3 weeks to get that. Or it could be a little longer, it just depends on what your budget looks like. Or maybe you want to go back to school. So you'll want to set some money aside in a savings account, save for 2 months so you can make the $150 for school books. Some long-term goals that you may want to look at savings for could be that you want to buy that used car. So think about how much you can save in 12 months. So $1,500, you know, how much is that? And I always tell everyone, just, you know, get your calculator out. We all have calculators on our phone, so pull that calculator out to start, you know, doing calculations. So if you have a goal of $1,500 and you want to save up for 12 months, that means you would want to save $125 a month. Or you could say you're going to save up about $63 every 2 weeks. Maybe you get paid every 2 weeks or twice a month. So you'll want to save up at least $63 per pay period so that you can hit that goal to buy that car. Or maybe you want to plan a trip to South America. I know that's probably something you don't want to do right now with it, now that we're in a pandemic, but let's say in the future you want to set up and set some money aside for a trip somewhere. Maybe you want to just go up to Yellowstone National Park, and maybe you want to just do a trip in, you know, locally in the US. You know, even that, you know, takes money. So you can think about how you can save for that. And then another thing that you might want to save up for is a down payment on a house. So for $5,000, you'll want to save up. That's about $138 a month. So, and if you're looking at per pay period, that's about $70 a month. So think about, you know, how much you would be able to save up for a down payment. You know, it's going to take you 2 years, it's going to take 3 or 4 years. You know, what does it look like for you? So think about how you will get there to reach that goal. All right, so we are now at part 4 of this plan. So we're going to talk about tracking, assess, take action, and save. And so this is a plan to help you think about, really to see where your money is going. So you're going to track that, you're going to assess it, we're going to take some action, and then how you're going to save money. So how can you reach your savings plan? We're going to actually create a spending plan. So spending plan is a strategy for saving and spending money. Spending plan tracks how much money comes into your household, and it shows how it needs to be used to meet your expenses and savings goals. So, you know, you want to be able to use this spending plan, and you'll have to get, if you have access to a printer, you can print out, there's a budget form that we're going to be going over. If not, then it's something that you can actually do. If you wanted to use like a spreadsheet to do this, you can do this in a spreadsheet as well. So developing a spending plan is this 4-step process that we call TAPS. So tracking, assessing, taking action, and savings. So the first step is to track your income and expenses. This includes looking at money that comes into your household. So, you know, where is money coming from? From salary, or maybe retirement, side jobs, tax refunds, per capita payments, child support. If you have any other income that is coming in, you know, you'll include that as your income. And then expenses would be housing, transportation, food, childcare, debt, entertainment, healthcare. And at the bottom, I just included something about how our ancestors would, you know, fit into this equation. So every year, our ancestors estimated their needs based on what they used in the previous years. So earlier, when I was talking about the corn and the farming, the pinon, or even the hunting and the fishing, you know, they knew how much they had to save up, because, you know, they always looked back at the previous year. If their families were growing, then they knew they needed to save up a little bit more. So in in the workbook, if you were able to download the workbook, you'll want to go to page 21, and that's where we talk about tracking spending. That with tracking spending, you need to know both your income and your expenses. They need to know how much money comes into your household, and then how much money is going out for all of the things that are listed there. And if you have anything else that are expenses, you'll want to also include those. We are going to meet the Stevens family. So the Stevens family is a family of 4, and the Stevens family, they have mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Stevens, and they have their kids. And so let's see here. I didn't have an image of the Stevens family, so I'm going to go on to the next page. So this is the Stevens family monthly expenses. So we're going to just go right into looking at how much money they spend on different expenses. So if you take a look at this, look at how much money they are spending on housing. So how much they're paying for rent, water, sewer, electric, propane, gas, repairs and maintenance. So $716. And then the next section is transportation. So it looks like they have 2 auto loans. So they're paying 2 auto loans. They have 2 insurance premiums that they pay. They have to pay for gasoline for both vehicles and any repairs and maintenance like oil changes they have there. So that is costing them $1,083. And then the next section is food. So groceries, we have, they have $410 they spend on groceries monthly, and then $245 for eating out. So if you kind of look at that, let's see, I wanted to share this. If we look at eating out, how much is it that they're eating out per week? So if we just do that, divide that by 4, that's $61 a week. And then the next area is debt. This is other than their auto loan. So they have a student loan they make payment on, a MasterCard and a Visa. And then their monthly payment is $134 for all of those, for those 3. And then the next thing they have is they have a family plan for their cell phone. So that's $125. The next section is entertainment. They have dish cable bill of $50. They spend $100 on movies. They spend $170 on other entertainment, and that total comes to $320. For health, somebody has a gym membership, so that's $30. And then miscellaneous, if you want to take a look at that. So miscellaneous, they have $20 going toward a fundraiser, $25 for storage rental, new clothes, $510, gifts, $75, pet, $50, housewares, $80, and the total comes to $760. So this is a little bit of information about their income. So if you look at Pauline's wages, she makes a total take-home pay is $1,900. James brings home $1,735, and he has an extra job on the side where he fixes cars. So that is $250. So get your calculator out and total that up. We're going to go down to the total expenses. So we're going to total up all of their expenses. So housing, transportation, food, debt, communications, entertainment, health, and miscellaneous. And we're going to figure out what money they have left. So their total income is $3,885. Their expenses come to $3,823. and they want to save some money for toward a down payment on a house. So they're putting $100 into a savings account that gets automatically transferred every month. So what is their cash flow? So again, get your calculators out and calculate this. So $3,885 minus $3,823, and that comes to $62. And if we're putting money into a savings account, we are actually in the negative, negative 38. So our cash flow is actually in the negative with all of the spending that they're doing. So the question is, how is the Stevens family doing? Do they have a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow? And think about this. What does it mean for their family? They have, income coming in. It's just enough to pay for all of the bills that they have, not the bills, but all of the expenses they have in the month, but they don't have enough to go into that savings account. I mean, they're short by $38. So what does this mean for them? I mean, they want to set some money aside to save for a house. Are they going to be able to hit their goal if they're short $38? So they're really only saving like $62 every month. So this is part of the tracking their expenses. So this is what you will do for your own family, for your own expenses. You'll want to go in and list all of your expenses. So going back to this worksheet, like I said, you can use the worksheet that's in the booklet, or if you want to set up a spreadsheet, or even with, a piece of paper, you can write this down, maybe get it, do like a ledger book. You can write all of this down and have this handy for yourself to use, but track everything that's here. I mean, if you have other expenses that you have to include here, then include that. So that way you can really get a good picture of what expenses you have. And then, and of course, your income will also go here. So that way you'll figure out what your monthly expenses are from your monthly income. And if you have a savings plan, what is your cash flow? And you'll want to do that because that's going to help you to see if you're on the track to save what you want to save for. So whatever your savings plan is, this is going to help you to see how long it will take you to get to your savings goal. The next step is to assess. So when you assess your spending, you can identify areas to reduce spending and increase savings. So expenses can be put into two categories: fixed and flexible. Fixed have monthly costs that do not change every month. For example, rent or mortgage, your car payment, a loan payment, and insurance. Those pretty much stay the same. So those are fixed expenses. Flexible expenses are a monthly cost that could change each month, and things that we control as far as our spending goes. So groceries, utilities, gas, ceremonial costs. And down at the bottom, again, going back to our ancestors compare the available harvest to their current needs. So remember, thinking about, what is it that they're going to do with that harvest? Is it something that they can share with other families? Or do they say, gosh, grandmother and grandfather said that it was going to be a tough winter, so we need to put a little bit more aside for that time. So we're not going to be able to give as much away as we've done in the past. So they're able to do that. And that's something that, we think about, and we want to think about as we're going through this process. So let's talk about what the Stevens family can do to reduce their expenses. So many people have luxury expenses each month. Luxury expenses can include eating in a fancy restaurant, buying expensive clothes, purchasing a high-end smartphone when your old one works just fine. These expenses are wants, not needs, and it might be a good place to start to reduce your spending. So luxury needs, or I'm sorry, luxury expenses, just think about that. It can even mean, maybe the car you drive could be a luxury expense. Maybe you might be able to do with a smaller car or something that isn't as high end with all the bells and whistles. Some things that are even listed in this are going to the movies. And that's up to you if you want to consider that a luxury expense, because we have so many other options. Like we can watch movies at home. We can watch it on Netflix or Amazon, and think about the cost that you could save doing that at home. So another thing is spending money on a brand new smartphone. I mean, do you buy a smartphone, a new phone every year when the new model comes out, or do you have one that's like 5 years old that works just fine? Think about that. How much can you save when you save on spending money on a smartphone? Another thing is video games. I know that video games, those prices definitely can add up. So when we look at assessing, spend less, save more. If you need to decrease your monthly spending, look at lowering those luxury expenses, right? What are your biggest expenses? What were some of the big expenses for the Stevens family? What was the one expense that kind of stood out to you? If you want to go back and take a look at that, I mean, we can take a look at the expenses again, but just right off the top of my head, I think the biggest expense that I saw was the clothing expense. It could have been because maybe it was back to school. Maybe they had to go clothes shopping. It's August, so maybe they had to go school shopping, and that's why the clothing budget was or the expense was so high this month. How can we decrease that? Are there some options to decreasing the clothing expense? What other luxury expenses can you reduce or eliminate? And that's, again, the question that we want to ask as it relates to the Stevens family is, what is it that we are doing or we can help them with so that they can meet their goals? So this is something that was in our class, and I want to share this with you. It's the 50-20 rule. So this is a quick tip to help you manage your spending by setting limits on what percentage of monthly expenses or monthly income you will earmark for fixed expenses, flexible expenses, and savings. So the rule is that you should set 50% of your income aside for fixed expenses. So again, fixed expenses, your house payment or your rent, your car payment, insurance, those are fixed expenses. And then for flexible expenses, you want to set 30% aside for that. And then 20% for your savings account. Savings can include emergency funds, retirement accounts, or any other type of rainy day fund. So if possible, you want to try to follow the 50-30-20 rule. So the next step that we're going to do is going to be take action. So when you take action, you give yourself a spending plan or budget to reduce your spending so that you have money left over to save. How can we help the Stevens family with a spending plan for next month? Now, remember, our ancestors adjusted what they used based on what was available. So they did not, if they had, you know, corn that had to last for 3 months, you know, they didn't use it all this month because, you know, what are they going to have next month or the following month? So remember that they were very conscious about how they use their resources. So it's the same way when we think about what we have, when we think about the money we have, the income that we earn, you know, what are we going to do so that we can make that money last? How can we look at saving money? Okay. So we're going to do this activity. I'm going to go back here to the Stevens family monthly expenses. And I'm going to just kind of go over the activity that I went over with the class to kind of show you how we could look at cutting expenses so that the Stevens family can reach their goals. So when we assess this, what are some of the things in this list of expenses that we could cut? So when the picture showed us cutting expenses, so what could we cut? So just right off the top, is there any way that maybe we could look at maybe one of the suggestions was maybe we could look at refinancing the vehicles to see if we could get a lower monthly payment, or maybe even if things really needed to, maybe we could end up, you know, with one car versus two cars, and one person, you know, might have to use, you know, have to bike to work or even take the bus. That is a possibility. So something to think about when you're doing your own monthly expenses and you're assessing these things. So we're going to look at food. So groceries, eating out. So I know that eating out is a treat. It's a treat for me to be able to eat out. So when you think about eating out, $245 a month. And if our goal is to save money for a home, you know, if you could get your family together, say, okay, this is our goal is to save for a home. So let's come up with a plan. How much can we cut on eating out? Maybe what we could do is, you know, add a little bit more to the grocery budget. So maybe we can plan some fun family dinners where everybody participates instead of going to eat out. So maybe we could do one evening of like doing a pizza party. So we'll go, you know, add a little bit more to the grocery expense so that we can buy stuff to make pizza. So, you know, get the pizza dough, get the pepperoni, the cheese, and the sauce, and the green chili, and you add, you know, do like a pizza night during the week. Maybe you can do like a cookout. Maybe if you're, you know, instead of eating out on Friday, maybe you come home and you have, you know, burgers on the grill, or do something fun like that. So think about the expense of eating out. So one of the recommendations would be to cut the eating out expense and cut it down to 100. So now we have 145 that we're going to save, and the eating out budget is only $100. And then the next thing, I mean, we're going to leave the credit card debt alone because we don't want to interfere with our credit card payments. We're going to keep making those payments. And so we're going to go down to the next one. And maybe we have to evaluate our cell phone plan and look and see if this is the best deal. Maybe we have to shop around and look to see if maybe we can find a less expensive plan. So we might be able to save money from in that area, but we have to research that. For entertainment, think about where we can save money there. So maybe we can save money on movies. Maybe we can make it a treat to go to the movies, maybe only once a month. You know, I'm not sure for a family of four how much that will cost to go to the movies. And maybe we just say because we're in a pandemic, we're not going to go to the movies, that we're going to just stay home so we can save $100. So we can just, decide to take that out. So now we're going to add $100 back into savings there. And other entertainment, I'm not sure what the other entertainment is. But if the family is looking at saving money, maybe they can come up with creative ways to do entertainment that isn't going to cost money. For me, I like to get out and hike and ride my bikes. So maybe if the kids have bicycles, or if you want to just do some outdoor hiking or go to the park, that might be something that you can do in place of entertainment. There are different things you can do. So maybe another area that you could do is remove the entertainment expense of $170, and you have $170 now going into your savings account from there. Another thing is the gym. So maybe we can save $30 a month, maybe take a break from the gym and find other ways to exercise. Like I said, hiking, maybe running will replace that. So we can save $30 if we, discontinue the gym membership. And then go down to the bottom. One of the things that I saw that was a luxury, and well, not a luxury, but one of the things I saw that was a want, not a need, was gifts. So gifts, are nice to give, but maybe if you don't and you need to save money for expenses, making sure that your family is getting what the family needs, and meeting that goal of saving money for home. Maybe you will take out the gift budget. Maybe you will say, instead of buying gifts for people, maybe we'll do homemade cards and just do that instead of giving a gift, or maybe find something that you can make at home and give to the person. So that was another item that was mentioned that we could save, is the $75 gifts amount or expense. And then going down, the other one that we said was the clothing. So new clothing is $510. Maybe the kids are in sports, maybe you have to buy new football shoes, new soccer shoes, you have to buy the uniform, whatever it is. But maybe we just kind of have to take a look back and see, what are some ways that we can cut these expenses for new clothes. Maybe we have to watch, where we go shopping. Maybe we have to look at other options at saving money. So maybe the clothing budget will get, cut down to maybe, let's say, to $100 a month. So let's cut that budget down. And so we're going to add $410 back into our budget by cutting that down to $100 a month. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to calculate what the savings is going to do for us. So we'll have $145 for the eating out that we're putting back into our savings, $100 from the movies, $170 from the entertainment, $30 from the gym, $75 for the gifts, and then $410. So right there, we are going to be putting $930 toward our savings account. So the total expenses now, we're going to take off, let's see here. So 383. So the total expenses now comes to $2,893. So $2,893 is how much our expenses are. And the amount of income we have coming in is $3,885. So that doesn't change. So now we have the total of $992 that we are going to be able to save, so we can put that money into a savings account. And can you imagine if this family sticks to this savings plan, or they keep to this, keep their expenses low, and they're able to save this much money, what they're going to be able to do when it comes to saving money. It'll help them to reach their goal of putting money toward the down payment of a house. It'll help them to probably show their kids that, we're going to stick to this savings budget, and this is what we're going to do as a family. And so the kids understand that instead of going to see a movie, we're going to do this activity, or instead of going out for pizza, we're going to do pizza at home. And it just shows the family that, this is what we value. We value saving this money, and we value spending time as a family together. Therefore, this is something that's important to us. So again, going back to the bottom of this, finally, our ancestors planned what portion to harvest to set aside for future needs. So our ancestors did this. They set a portion of their harvest aside for future needs. So the winter times, they also set part of their seeds aside for the next year, right? So that way they would have seeds for the following year. So they, just think about that concept, and think about that when it comes to, setting up your spending plan and your savings plan, and how you will use that with your families. So again, going back to what we did, so we tracked what was going on. We looked at the family's income. We looked at their expenses. We assessed it. We took a look at what were their wants and what were the needs, what are luxury expenses, and how could we take a look at making changes to their expenses. So you take action by putting together a spending plan, and your family should be involved. Get the kids involved in helping you plan this. So if you have, of course, you don't want to have your kids come and sit down and look at all of the bills, but if you can get them involved with even the part that has to do with entertainment and eating out, and tell them that, because we're saving money to put a down payment on a house, or maybe we need a new car, let's talk about how we're going to do that. So you have everyone's involvement in planning your expenses, and get everybody into what you're doing. And so that way you get everyone's buy-in. That way everyone understands what the goals are, and they all know that they're going to be part of the success and everything that the family is doing. Oops. So again, right here, talk to your family about your goals, and everybody can contribute to the goals. Everyone can be part of, your family reaching the goals, and making sure that money is not spent where it doesn't need to be spent. Maybe somebody, one of the kids has to have, like I said, football shoes or basketball shoes or soccer shoes, set money aside for that. So another thing to think about when I think about saving money for school clothes, instead of having like a big hit, a big expense for clothing in like August, maybe you start saving money early in the year. Maybe you save for 6 months. Say, okay, everyone's going to save this amount of money every month, so that way they will have money for new school clothes or new school books, whatever the expense will be. So get everyone involved in your savings plan. And this is about a record, financial record keeping system. You want to be able to track your financial records. So you could actually set up a billing system. You could go and get some folders, go down to maybe Staples or Office Max or even Target, and you can buy some folders to start to separate your bills. You can separate them by month and have everything in there. Or you can separate bills by the creditor, so that way you have everything established. But it's really good for you to track where your money goes. I think once you start to see that, you can start to keep a good record keeping system. So every month your expense report, maybe you'll print that out and you'll keep that in your folder. So keep all of that in order. And I think that it'll be a good way for you to start out the year. I guess it's a new school year, so it'd be a good way to start that out. Talk to your kids, get your kids involved, get your family all involved, and make this a fun thing. That way everyone, like I said, buys into the activity. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you for being part of the presentation. If you have any questions about the worksheets or the workbook, you can email me at Kristine@nativestartup.com. I'm sorry, nativestartup.org, and I can reply to your email. But if you do have any questions, email me. If you're interested in learning more about this, you can email me as well. Thank you so much.